So that's the end right there. That was the end of Fear the Walking Dead. We've seen that story entirely. Like that story, the story of Fear the Walking Dead has now been told. Whether or not the ending and just sort of where they're at was the original intention of the show entirely. So much has happened over the years, but that was Fear the Walking Dead. The ending just happened, and I do have some thoughts on it. I do have a lot of thoughts on it. I have a lot of issues with this. And I also do want to say that a lot of the endings for the characters makes a lot of sense, and that certain moments that happened were very emotional, and I actually got emotional myself. But certain decisions and certain things happening, it makes me very, very frustrated overall with Fear the Walking Dead and just what could have been with this show. But let's get into this here. So before we go any further, obviously make sure to be aware that this video will contain spoilers for this episode. I'm going to be doing videos talking about obviously the big reveal like in this episode, but I'll post that later on today. The Walking Dead, The Ones Who Live, that trailer will be out later on today as well. So I'm going to be doing a video on that. There's a lot of stuff that I do have to do videos on just sort of in general. There's a lot of stuff with the Walking Dead universe that is happening. So I'm going to be doing stuff on all of this stuff. But yeah, obviously that stuff will be out later on today. So definitely make sure to be a subscriber if you do want to get all my Fear the Walking Dead content like this. Now, I guess let's just get into it here. Obviously I'm going to review both episodes together. It makes no sense for me to really review just one and then get into the other one. It's kind of pointless. I will say, though, I don't understand the point of releasing these episodes together. It actually doesn't really make too much sense. I thought that after watching this episode, or both episodes, that it would make a lot of sense. It doesn't really make too much sense. I think the way the first episode, like of the two-parter, I think the way it ended would have built a lot of hype, like throughout the week here, for the very final episode. But it just kind of, I don't know, like it was like, honestly, I don't really understand the decision behind it, other than they just wanted Fear the Walking Dead to end, and so they just sort of did whatever, right? The first episode does begin with Mississippi Queen playing, and I thought that was really cool because I thought they were killing zombies, but I guess they were just sort of trying to lead the horde of walkers. And I think the whole story of leading the horde of walkers, honestly, is just very, very ridiculous. I think if they would have introduced this earlier on in season 8, then yeah, that would have been really cool. But it just happens out of nowhere, and there's so much. And yes, in the last episode early on, the Walker battle was very cool visually. Like there were certain things about it that was like, oh, this is actually very cool. But it's just the whole thing behind it, the purpose of it, the meaning behind everything with Padre and just everything just absolutely did not make sense. And it was just very, very frustrating. Like that's the thing about Fear the Walking Dead, at least since season 4, ever since the showrunners took over, or the new showrunners, is that characters, like their purpose changes constantly. Like they'll believe in this, but for plot conveniences, that it'll change. And like throughout these episodes, or at least in season 8, I've really noticed a lot. Like first of all, the use of the walkie-talkies. I've talked about this before, but it's like they can just talk to people constantly, and it's like, I don't know, it's just so convenient. Like everyone has a walkie-talkie, everyone's able to talk constantly, everyone can hear everyone else talking about stuff. But I don't know, it's just like the whole thing there is just kind of ridiculous. And also everyone like constantly pulls out a gun on each other. Like they're constantly holding people at gunpoint to do this. Like so many times in this show, I was like, okay, Madison's doing this to Luciana to be able to use that vehicle, but Luciana knows that Madison's not going to kill her. But like Tracy pulled a gun on Madison, I don't know how many times. And like, you know what I mean? Like it happens so much. Like there's so many things that have happened. Madison constantly has done it. And it's like, because Madison wants to get this, and that character's not letting Madison do this. And so she has to do that to get her way. And I'm like, it happens constantly in every single scene. This character is wanting to do this, and that one character is preventing this, and so they switch. And it's like, I can't believe how much, just like Troy, Madison, Daniel, Strand, like everybody, how much they throughout the entire second half of the season here. I mean, the first half the issues are still there, but just with the second half specifically, like how much they really just like were everywhere. Like wherever the surrounding area is around Padre, they were just like everywhere. And like, I don't know, it just all seems so silly. Like everyone was just, I mean, it makes sense with the ending that they all said their goodbyes and left, because that makes sense for Fear the Walking Dead. The Walking Dead, they all stayed together as a family. Yes, Daryl left, but it's because he was trying to find Rick and he was going to come back, right? So that makes sense because they're a family. And I mentioned this before. The Fear the Walking Dead characters don't like each other. And yes, there was those emotional endings, but there was really no reason for them to say goodbye. Like, other than they just wanted something else for their lives and they don't really like them. So it's kind of like a breakup. They're like, yeah, you know what? Like, we don't really get along and I just want to go and do this. Whereas I think with The Walking Dead, they're like, you know what? We just want to survive and this place here is a very good place to be at. Let's just stay here. Because there's no definitive thing at the end of Fear the Walking Dead here that makes us be like, yeah, there's no reason why they couldn't be together, right? Like the entire group. They just all kind of say goodbye. And just on the surface, the writing there, that's why I don't like the writing, because it just makes it so that we're going to bookend these stories and it just makes sense for these characters to be here. Like, for Madison to go back to LA and Dwight and Sherry going back to the sanctuary, which I did find very interesting, by the way. Doing that definitely sets up something for Dead City, because Dead City, like, that's the thing about that show, is it's not just set in New York. Like, you got to remember, it's not just set in New York. There's places like at the Bricks and stuff that are like outside of it. So they could go back to the sanctuary. They could do stuff like that. So the fact that Dwight and Sherry are actually back there is very, very interesting. It also makes it very interesting, you know, considering the fact that Carol said something about someone came back. So, I mean, she could have literally been referencing the fact that Dwight came back, or Morgan, because Morgan was going back there. So it seems like in terms of those stories, Dwight and Morgan's story overall ended with their characters going back to Fear the Walking Dead, or Fear the Walking Dead, going back to The Walking Dead. So I like that. That's actually a really good ending. Just because I want them away from Fear the Walking Dead. Like, it has nothing to do with just what the characters or who they are specifically. I just want them away from the show. And so that's my issue with a lot of the writing here. Like, so much of like the plot is just it's I feel like it's made up on the fly. That's exactly what it feels like. It's just they're just writing just constantly, and they're like, okay, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. Okay, so wait, so if we want to do this, I mean, we mentioned this before, so how can we get out of that? Oh, we're just gonna do this. It constantly feels like they're always writing themselves into a corner, but they just make up something randomly to get themselves out of it, and it doesn't really go along with what the character is, and things feel so meaningless over time. And that's what it felt like, and that's what it just feels like overall with like Troy's return. Troy's return feels so meaningless. There's so much of the story here in Fear the Walking Dead, especially since season 4, that has just overall felt so meaningless. And those first 3 seasons felt like it actually really mattered. Like, it honestly felt like the Clark family's story really, like, it meant something. They were trying to achieve something. And ever since then, it really hasn't been. And it's because there's no overall goal. There's nothing that they're trying to do. Like, there's literally nothing that Fear the Walking Dead has tried to do with our characters really since then. Like, for season 1 to 3, they were just trying to survive. That made sense. But after that, things just weren't as grounded anymore. And I do think it was just sort of overall the change in storytelling because of the new showrunners. I think that's what happened. I do want to say the actress that played Troy's daughter, absolutely brilliant. Honestly, like, that actress, like, I know that like child actors on the show people criticize because they'll be like cringy or they can't act or this and that, but like Troy's daughter, absolutely amazing. Honestly, like, I feel like she's a better actress than like some of the other actors on the show. Like, it's kind of funny. But Troy also getting wounded as well, that whole thing there was honestly really awesome. Like, I actually think that the way that some of that stuff in the beginning was done was actually kind of cool, because it was like seeing Troy in those situations. First of all, I guess looking back at it now doesn't really make too much sense, just because like I feel like he should have been way more hurt than he was, and I thought they were going somewhere with that when that happened. Like, when I made the note here anyways, I did think that, you know, Troy was probably going to die at that point, but he ended up dying for something completely unrelated, so I guess that's kind of whatever. But I thought this scene was kind of cool. The scene where the Alicia fan group was kind of saying, like, if you watch those tapes, like, you would know that Madison always gives second chances. That was so cringe. That whole scene was so bad. Like, so awful. I don't know why these characters were introduced on the show. Like, why would you do something like this? Like, I know Alicia, like, you know, she references them later on, but like, it's just, and like, I guess I'm okay with that idea. Like, I'm okay with the idea that Alicia's like, you know what, it's better for them to know or to think that we died, because if they think that we died, then the belief of what we've done here can kind of save them. You know what I mean? But like, also just tell them that you're alive to give them some happiness and be like, oh, there's like, did you see how happy Strand was? Strand seeing Alicia and Madison there at the end, like, he was just so happy about that. I guess we're just not supposed to really think about that too much. I don't know. I have a lot of issues with that. Troy's speech though in that one scene I thought was really actually like really well done, and a lot of it was because the music in the background. I noticed they actually used that piece of music a lot throughout these last two episodes. Maybe they used it beforehand, but I noticed it a lot in these two episodes here. And the whole thing there was just amazing. That guy from Padre showing up, like as much as I do want to have issues with it, and I do overall, like I actually do have like big issues with it because when he showed up, I laughed. But to close the door on that, actually, you know what? I'm not even no, like it is actually just kind of ridiculous. Like they kind of already closed the door on that. He just walked away and that was that. Like that was the end of his story. Like to bring him back here and him changing his beliefs out of nowhere, like him, like, because he wanted Padre and all that, and he was like going to do this and that. And then after he sees Madison and Troy in the water, he's like, you know what? I actually don't want that anymore. I just want to see this. And then he just dies right away. Like, why? Like, why? Like, why any of that? And then not being able to kill Troy because of the Walker herd. Like, again, something else came up. It was another plot convenience thing because of something that was randomly introduced out of nowhere. It's just like it's I don't know how much more I can say that. Like I constantly have to say that, but it's an issue with Fear the Walking Dead. It's been a thing for a while. And so the whole plan here is obviously they want to destroy the herd. The ending of that first episode when Madison kills Troy, I just like it's frustrating because Troy, honestly, there was a redemption arc there for him, and then he reveals, well, I wrote down here, he reveals the truth about Tracy. And I wrote that it was kind of annoying because I mean, from Troy's point of view, at least from what I wrote down, it makes sense because he's just sort of trying to reveal the truth. But like, him wanting to reveal that, yeah, that makes sense. But Madison saying that she doesn't believe in second chances, it's just a twist for the sake of being a twist in the episode to create drama here, just to have something in the scene here for the end of the episode. And then Troy being able to say that at the very end there is, it's meant to be very shocking. And now Madison, believes otherwise. So she basically goes back to what she believed in beforehand. And then now she wants to give second chances again. So you just kind of wasted Troy for something so pointless here. And I think you could have done something really, really great with Troy, to be honest. I think you really could have. Maybe Troy, Alicia, Madison, and Tracy, they went back to LA, and something like that. You could have done something like that. And honestly, I don't even like the fact that Madison and Alicia are going back to LA. I just don't think that makes a lot of sense. But we'll get into that here. So now let's actually get into, I guess, the final episode. I've kind of already been talking about it here and there, but as much as I am criticizing these moments and I'm criticizing a lot of the writing and all of that, I do want to stress that the moments that actually happened, seeing certain things happen, like the performances from the actors and just kind of on face value, seeing these things, it is very emotional. Like I actually got emotional during a lot of those scenes. And there was something so emotional that I wrote down here anyways about Madison realizing that she had a granddaughter and like finding another reason to live. I really liked that. That was just something that was like, that makes a lot of sense. And it was something that like, I was so happy for her, and obviously in the end ended up not really being the case, which I feel like was a weird twist. I don't really like, to me, that twist at the end, I feel like was sort of created to be like, well, because the idea of that was kind of ridiculous. But also, I guess I do overall support it because the reason why I do support it is, one, I had a lot of issues with the fact that Tracy was Alicia's daughter. Like, one, Tracy's about, I don't know how old at that point, but why does she not remember Alicia? Literally made no sense. Like, how long was she with Troy and why does she believe Troy's her dad? None of that made any sense. Like, none of that made any sense at all. So Alicia being like, I don't know who you are kind of thing, I'm like, okay, that clears a lot of that up. And also it makes Troy's sacrifice, I guess, that much better in that way. Or I guess he wasn't sacrificed, he was killed. But him saying that, like Alicia's her mom and saying that, I'm not her father kind of thing. Like, it was a lie, obviously. But like, as a father, lying like that to keep your daughter safe there's just something so inspirational about that. And so I guess that works. Like, that does work. It's just the decision by Madison to kill Troy. It's just like, why? Like, why? And also it's so cruel. Like, Madison literally killed Troy in front of his daughter. Literally, like, Tracy saw it and we're just expected to believe that Tracy is going to forgive Madison. And this is, again, a lot of the same issues that have been there since season 4, since when they first killed off Nick, and then Alicia having to forgive Charlie and all of that. Like, there's so many things that I just feel like can never happen. And that's the thing about The Walking Dead. They get that right. Maggie has never, ever forgave Negan for killing Glenn. And she's tried. She's tried to do so many things. like the end of The Walking Dead, you know, she can't forgive him. There's nothing that she can do to possibly have him in her life, but there's this effort from her. She's trying. You can see her trying, you know, and in Dead City, you know, she's starting to realize that this is really taking a toll on her family, and it's because trauma like that would. And they have spent years and years focusing on that. And the whole thing with Charlie and Alicia, you know, when they sort of, or I guess when Alicia forgave Charlie, it happened so fast. And Madison too. I mean, that was even faster. That was like in one episode, basically. The whole thing just makes no sense. And again, it's because there's no emotion, and it's just, you can see the writing, you can see all of the decisions made with this show. And I think that's what I find so frustrating, because it's like the characters don't really mean anything at all. And that's just kind of, that's really what it is. Like, I really feel like ever since the end of season 3 of Fear the Walking Dead, it's been so pointless. It's been very, very meaningless. Daniel's outburst was very well done. I thought all of that was actually kind of cool. He brought up some stuff from season 1. Those scenes there were really great. The final battle being something Walker Herd related. Again, I mentioned before, it was very underwhelming because of the reasons for it, but I think the visuals of it were very cool. Like I said, like, they get those moments right where these things are happening and you just kind of have to ignore like what led up to that moment. But like, seeing these characters and just how you remember these characters overall, and just what you remember of them from before, was something that makes these scenes very, very great. And you know, I just think that seeing Dwight yelling and stuff, and it's very action like it really felt like an action movie. Like, I actually thought it was very cool. And yeah, I really have no issues with any of that. It's sort of the reasons behind all of it, but I really feel like if they actually got the writing really well done, and then we just saw those scenes there, and we saw, you know what I mean? Like, that's the thing with Fear the Walking Dead. It's the writing that's the issue. And some of these like very core main ideas make sense, because to anybody, to any of us, we could write those things. We could write the ending that Fear the Walking Dead got, and we could write our way out of a lot of this stuff. But like, that's why you need really good writers here. And I think that's why the overall direction, like having the directors and the actors and all that, like, they do such a great job with, I think, really bad writing. When Strand broke down, that actually did break me down. Like, the second his voice cracked there when he was kind of getting really emotional with Madison, I thought it was their final scene. That scene there, I mean, I guess it kind of was their final scene in a way, but like that there, it yeah, like I got emotional from that. That was actually one of the first moments where I was like, whoa, actually I'm starting to really feel something here. And but then Tracy decides to shoot Madison for just, I don't know why, just, I guess, whatever, just to do something. And then we get the whole backstory of the ending of that battle. Like, that was so bad. That was so bad. Like, why are you doing that? You introduced this whole war and this whole thing happening, and then you just get rid of it like that, like through a backstory. And you basically say that, you know, Madison, I guess she sacrificed Padre to sort of end everything. And that is a full circle moment to when she did that early on in season 4, to also another bad decision that you did by writing off the character. Like, I don't get that. And it's also not even that. Like, Tracy realizing all of this, the whole thing there, like, after she just shot Madison and left, like, that's what I mean about like these really bad decisions being made. Like, they just, out of nowhere, Tracy shoots Madison because she's upset about whatever. She runs away, and then Strand finds her, tells the story, and then she feels bad again, and then she goes back. Like, this constantly happens, like almost every 10 minutes. And so now apparently Tracy found Madison and then pulled her out of Padre, pulled her out of all of that, into like this like military tent or whatever, and like is like helping her here. Like, I just find that is so unbelievable. How did somebody, like, how old is she? Like 7, 8, 9, 10 or whatever, and she's pulling a grown adult away from, I guess, Padre, and somehow brought her all the way over here. Like that's just so unbelievable. I just honestly, I was just like, just end the show already. At that point, I was like, you know what? You just have to end this. I just want to see the really big moments here, because I think they'll be really cool. And then Alicia just walks up, and there's part of me that I'm like, you know what, that makes sense. You know, something just so simple. You don't have to do anything that clever where she's like kind of whatever, just her walking out of nowhere. There's a part of me that likes it, but there's a part of me that doesn't, you know, so I don't really know how I feel about it overall. But I will say Madison holding Alicia, I broke down right there. I was just like, this is amazing. This is just so good. And so seeing that, having her return, I was just like, oh, this is so great. Like, this is just, again, Alicia returning made no sense in terms of the overall plot. Like, she didn't really serve a purpose in the story other than like, oh, here's Alicia and we're ending the show, so we're going to have these two characters together. But ignoring all of that, to see them together was awesome. It was so amazing to see that. And then to see the endings to, I guess, the character stories overall was also very interesting. And I found actually kind of awesome to watch. So, June is going back to Texas. That makes a lot of sense, I guess. Like, that's the thing about a lot of the story here. So if you look at every other character, the I guess the method of, I guess, how they wrote this, it really feels like they're really focusing on like a full circle type of storytelling, which a lot of people I know do. It's like they'll take a story from the beginning and then they'll do something, and then in the end it's got to come full circle, and a lot of people do that, and they've done that a lot with Fear the Walking Dead. They always sort of like the end is the beginning, you know what I mean? Like, that's such a common theme throughout Fear the Walking Dead. They've done that quite a bit, and they're sort of doing that. The end here is in their beginning. It's always been a thing, and it's nothing genius. Like, it's a very, very common thing in writing. And so that's kind of what happened. Like, June is going back to Texas, going back to her cabin. So that's that. Dwight and Cher are going back to the sanctuary, and I'm like, okay, so that's kind of full circle. Daniel's reunion with Skidmark. He's kind of with Luciana still, and all of that. So they're going to continue to help people and all of that. So that's basically full circle. Strand and his family driving off. He sees Alicia and Madison. That was very cool. I don't want to say this is full circle, but he at least found some meaning. But Madison and Alicia going to LA, as cool as that was, like, as soon as they mentioned, oh, we're going to go back there, I was like, oh, that's actually kind of cool. But it's frustrating because it's something that I want to see. Like, I want to see them back in LA. I really want to see that. But we're not getting that, obviously. And that's kind of that. And we just kind of have to imagine, I guess, what happened with those characters at that point. So, again, Fear the Walking Dead. I mean, first of all, I guess seeing Alicia, her return, very, very cool. I'll do a video talking about that and breaking all of that down, because obviously there is just so much there. But Fear the Walking Dead was a show, I think, that definitely a lot of issues. And a lot of what is wrong with Fear the Walking Dead is what was wrong with The Walking Dead in season 7 and 8. And it's just a lot of like meaningless storytelling and focusing on, I don't want to say focusing on emotions too much, because it's not necessarily focusing on emotions, but it's like they focus on beliefs of things way too much that it takes away so much of the realness of the world and a lot of the logic that is happening. And then couple that with like bad writing and stuff like that, it just makes the show feel so pointless. And that's why sometimes these bigger moments can seem really cool, like having Madison and Alicia together. I really love that. And seeing the endings were really cool, but it's just like, did anything really mean anything? Did anything in this season really mean anything at all? Not really. It was all very frustrating to watch. It was just all very, very frustrating to watch. And so I was hoping that something would change with the finale. Nothing did. But the one thing that I guess happened in this last episode was we did get Alicia. We did see some of the bigger moments, and they did sort of close the story here on Fear the Walking Dead, which I guess in that way I was very happy to see, and it was kind of cool just to see all of that. Now, in terms of my thoughts on some of the characters' endings and all of that, June going back to Texas makes sense. I don't think we're ever going to see June again. I think she's sort of done as a character. I think that was our goodbye to her. Daniel's reunion with Skidmark, I feel like Daniel is also done. I don't think we're ever going to see Daniel again. Same with Strand. I think he's with his family and they're going to start off this whole new life. I think that was our goodbye to Strand as well. In terms of Madison and Alicia, I think that was sort of our goodbye to those characters, but I could see them introducing them in the future if The Walking Dead ever wanted to. Like, if AMC was like, you know what, we want to do this and that, we'll just write something here to come up with a reason for that. And it's pretty simple. They can say, well, we were going to LA, but then this happened and now we ended up over here, kind of thing, right? That makes a lot of sense. The only issues with that is like, if they were to ever have those characters on Dead City or any other show, you would have to have all three characters. And so, there would have to be a bigger story there to introduce. So it's something that I think is very possible, but I don't think it's going to happen for quite some time. Now, Dwight and Sherry, though, them going back to the sanctuary, that sets up a lot. Because, like I said before, Dead City, they're not just set in New York. Like, the Bricks is set outside of New York. Like, it's closer to the Commonwealth and all of that. So, to me, it's just, they could easily film some scenes there back at the sanctuary. And I think story-wise, it actually makes a lot of sense if they eventually get there for like a season 3 or something like that, right? Like, maybe Dwight actually has a lot of people at the sanctuary and now the sanctuary is thriving. For Negan to see the sanctuary now thriving under Dwight, that is something that would be really amazing. And I'll do a video talking about that, but I think that was definitely set up right there. And so now we can actually see Dwight and Sherry on Dead City. I think that is going to happen at some point in the future. But you know, that makes sense because he's a Walking Dead character. So he's just basically back where he belongs kind of thing, right? Same with Morgan. And the Fear the Walking Dead characters, it was basically sort of a goodbye, I guess, to them. And we'll see about Madison and Alicia. You know, I could see them at some point returning. But just as of now, that was sort of the goodbye. And there would just have to be some interest in the future. And I think for the next couple of years, anyways, that was sort of, I think that was it. So we'll have to wait and see. I do think we'll see those characters again just because I don't think they're going to leave that there, but who knows? We'll have to wait and see, right? So overall, I'm not going to really give a rating on these episodes because it's kind of, you know, if I were to rate these episodes, it would be a 4 or 5 out of 10. And I don't want to give a rating to these episodes like that because I like the moments of, you know, the saying goodbye to these characters and seeing the reunion between Madison and Alicia. That stuff was very cool. And just to see the ending to the chapter, the ending to the story, I guess, was very cool. And I think giving it a rating of 4 or 5 out of 10 just for these episodes kind of undermines what the whole show was. And the characters mean a lot to the fan base. And you know, the characters mean a lot to me. I love the Clark family. I love the entire cast of Fear the Walking Dead. And so the characters mean a lot more to me than just rating the show 4 or 5 out of 10. That's just what the writing has been. And so I think that's just where I feel so conflicted about it all and kind of angry and kind of frustrated about everything because it's like, these characters are awesome and I think they deserve so much better, but having them go back to where they started kind of thing, I guess I'm okay with that overall because that's sort of where they were before. Yeah, I don't know. But post your thoughts down below. What did you think of this? What did you think of Fear the Walking Dead's end? Hope you guys all enjoyed the video. I won't be streaming The Walking Dead Destinies today just because there's a lot of stuff going on. There's The Walking Dead The Ones Who Live trailer that's coming out later on today. If I have time, maybe I'll stream it later on tonight, like late tonight. But I know a lot of people want to watch the gameplay, so I think if I do that, a lot of people are missing out on that. So I think I might as well wait for a time when people can actually watch, right? So I'll probably have to wait on that because I do have a lot of videos. I have this one. I want to do another Fear the Walking Dead video on Alicia. There's some stuff I want to do on Dwight. And then there's the Walking Dead The Ones Who Live trailer, right? Like there's a lot of stuff that's coming out today. So I'm going to focus a lot on that. But anyways, push thoughts down below. Hope you all enjoyed the video and I'll see you guys in the next one.